All right, today we are diving into the story of the people who, you could argue, wrote the original blueprint for civilization as we know it. We're talking about the ancient Sumerians.
But here's a crazy thought for you. What if that entire blueprint, the first cities, the first laws, the very first stories ever written down, what if it was just gone? Completely lost to history for almost 4,000 years?
Well, turns out it was. And that is the incredible lost and found story of ancient Sumer that we're going to get into today. Okay, so first up, we have to really wrap our heads around just how completely this civilization vanished. I mean, it's a historical disappearing act on a scale that's, well, it's hard to even imagine.
I mean, just look at that gap in time. The Sumerian civilization was thriving for more than 2,000 years, and then, poof. Around 1750 BCE, they vanished as a distinct culture, and for nearly 4,000 years, they were basically forgotten. It wasn't until archaeologists in the 1800s started digging that people began to realize, wait a second, there's a whole chapter of human history just missing.
For all that time, from millennia, the only clue we had was this single, kind of cryptic reference in the book of Genesis to a land of Shinar. Nobody really knew what it meant. The literal architects of civilization were buried under the sand, and everything they'd ever done was just forgotten.
So, what exactly did the world forget? Well, for starters, it forgot the invention of the city itself. See, the Sumerians weren't one big country. They were this amazing network of, well, you could call them brand new social experiments. Places like Uruk, Ur, and Eridu, these weren't just villages. No way. These were the world's very first true urban centers. Each one was its own independent city-state. It had its own king, its own economy, its own special god, and this totally changed the game for how human beings lived together.
And right at the heart of every single one of these cities, you'd find this incredible structure, the ziggurat. Now, this wasn't just some temple. Think of it like a symbolic mountain, a giant, man-made staircase designed to connect the earth with the heavens. The idea was to invite the city's god to literally come on down and hang out with the people.
But, this deep connection they had with their gods, it had a much darker side. When archaeologists excavated the royal tombs at Ur, they found them filled with treasure, absolutely. But they also found the bodies of attendants, guards, all sacrificed to go with their king or queen into the afterlife. It's a really stark, kind of chilling window into how deeply religious and hierarchical their world was.
But their innovations went so far beyond just buildings. I mean, in a very real way, the Sumerians were inventing society itself. It all kind of started with what might be their single most important invention, writing. Cuneiform, with those cool wedge-shaped marks pressed into clay, it actually began as a simple accounting tool. 2 sheep, 5 goats, that kind of thing. But it evolved into something so much bigger. A way to write down laws, record history, and eventually to create the world's very first great work of literature.
Oh, and they also invented the wheel. But here's the crazy part. It wasn't for carts, not at first. For 300 years, 3 centuries, the wheel was only used as a potter's tool to spin clay and mass-produce pottery. It took that long before somebody had the aha moment to tip it on its side and build a wagon.
And then there's this, which is maybe the most profound thing of all. They invented the idea of written law. We're talking long before Hammurabi's more famous code. King Ur-Nammu of Ur created a legal system that was specifically designed to protect the weakest people in society, the widows, the orphans, and to make sure there was justice for everyone.
So, get this. This tablet you're seeing, it's a medical text. It's over 4,000 years old, and on it are 15 different prescriptions, using ingredients from plants, animals, minerals. It's not just a random list. It's proof of their systematic, scientific approach to the world.
And that really brings us to this quote, which I think just perfectly captures the Sumerian mindset. They didn't see themselves as just living in the world. No, they believed it was humanity's right, its mission, to transform nature, to improve on it, to basically become its master. This was a completely revolutionary shift in how humans saw their place in the universe.
Okay, so if these guys were so important, so foundational, how in the world did they just disappear? And maybe more importantly, how did their best ideas manage to survive even after their civilization was long gone?
Well, the end wasn't some big, dramatic explosion. It was more of a slow fade.
Over centuries, Sumer was conquered and absorbed by new powers popping up in the region, like the Amorites and the Babylonians. Their cities were still there, but the Sumerian language, their culture, it all just sort of faded into the background, replaced by the ways of their conquerors.
But here's the thing. Their ideas were just too good, too powerful to die out completely. Their successors, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, they pretty much adopted and adapted everything. They copied Sumerian literature, like the incredible Epic of Gilgamesh. The Sumerian story of a great flood? Yeah, that became the basis for pretty much every other flood story that followed. And that revolutionary idea that a king is under the law, not the source of it, that became a cornerstone of justice for thousands of years.
You know, it's easy to talk about their huge, grand legacy, but then you see a piece like this, and it just brings it all back down to earth. It reminds you that they were just people. This little sculpture, it captures this quiet moment of affection, a human connection that feels just as real and relatable today as it must have 4,500 years ago.
It's like the scholar Samuel Noah Kramer said, the echoes of Sumer are just embedded in the very fabric of our world. You can see it in our laws, our stories, our science, even in the signs of the zodiac. Their world isn't really lost at all. It's just hidden inside our own.
And that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to think about. The Sumerians proved that a civilization can be physically lost, buried under sand, but its culture can be immortal. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other lost worlds are still out there, quietly shaping the way we all live our lives today?